Imagine waking up tomorrow morning and the US dollar, the world's most powerful currency, has collapsed overnight. ATMs are frozen, supermarkets demand gold or crypto, and the entire financial world has gone silent. Could America, the richest empire in history, actually go broke? It sounds like fiction, but every empire that believed it was too big to fail eventually did. For over a century, the US dollar has ruled the world. It's in nearly 88% of global trades, held by every central bank, and used to buy almost everything, from oil to iPhones. It's not just America's currency, it's the world's currency. From Rome's silver denarius to Britain's pound sterling, every invincible currency eventually failed. So, what would happen if tomorrow it was the dollar's turn? To understand what happens next, we need to understand how we got here. The US dollar didn't become the world as king by chance. It earned that throne through war, oil, and trust. After World War II, the world was broken. Europe was in ruins, Asia was rebuilding, and America, untouched by war, emerged as the supplier, the banker, and the military guardian of the planet. At the 1944 Bretton Woods Conference, world leaders gathered to create a new financial system. They agreed that all major currencies would be tied to the US dollar, and the dollar itself would be tied to gold at $35 per ounce. For decades, this worked beautifully. The dollar was as good as gold. But by the late 1960s, America had a problem. It was spending too much. The Vietnam War, the space race, massive welfare programs, all funded by printing money. Foreign nations started doubting the gold promise. And in 1971, President Nixon broke it. He ended the gold standard. From that day forward, the dollar was no longer backed by gold, only by faith. That single decision changed the fate of the world's economy forever. The United States had discovered the greatest financial cheat code in human history. It could print the global reserve currency at will. Let's break down how this illusion machine actually works. The dollar isn't just America as money. It has the oxygen of global trade. Every country needs it to buy oil, pay debts, and settle imports. Even if two countries have nothing to do with the US, they still trade in dollars. Why? Because everyone trusts it. This system is called the petrodollar system, born from a 1974 deal between the US and Saudi Arabia. America promised to protect Saudi oil in exchange for one thing. That oil would only be sold in US dollars. This deal made the dollar indispensable. Nations couldn't survive without it. It became a global addiction, and America became the dealer. When America prints money, other countries absorb the inflation. When America borrows, the rest of the world lends. Think of it like this. The US holds the world's credit card, and everyone else pays the interest. This system allows America to live far beyond its means. While other nations balance budgets and suffer recessions, the US simply prints its way through crises minus 2008, 2020, even 2023. Each time, more dollars flood the system. But there's a catch. Every empire in history that relied on printing, from Rome's silver coins to France's paper assignats, eventually collapsed under the weight of its own money. In Rome, emperors shaved silver off coins to stretch the treasury. In France, the government printed revolutionary assignats, backed by seized land, until inflation wiped them out. In Weimar Germany, hyperinflation turned savings into wallpaper. In every case, printing bought time, but destroyed trust, and once trust dies, money dies. Yet the most trusted money on earth is backed by something terrifyingly fragile. Faith, not gold, not silver, just belief in America's promise to pay. In 1971, President Nixon untied the dollar from gold and replaced tangible value with trust. Since then, the US has printed more money than every other empire in history combined. The dollar is the blood in the veins of global trade. When it flows, the world thrives, and when it clogs, economies suffocate. But how strong is that confidence when the US owes over $35 trillion and adds $1 trillion more every 100 days? For decades, foreigners financed America's debt, but now something has changed. China, Japan, and Russia are quietly dumping US bonds. Central banks are buying gold, not dollars. Countries like Brazil and India are trading in their own currencies. The world is slowly diversifying away from the greenback, and history tells us what comes next. No currency stays king forever. Now imagine this. It's 7 a.m. on a Tuesday. Markets open in Tokyo. A rumor spreads that a major Asian central bank has sold half its US Treasury reserves. Within hours, the dollar index crashes. By noon in London, panic hits global markets. Traders flood into gold, Bitcoin, and foreign currencies. By the time New York opens, the unthinkable has happened. Foreign investors have lost faith in the dollar. The Federal Reserve scrambles to intervene. Interest rates spike overnight, from 4% to 15%. Mortgages triple. Stock markets freeze. Banks close withdrawals. The U.S. Treasury calls for emergency powers. Politicians assure the nation. The system is stable, but on the streets, gas stations demand cash only. Supermarkets ration food, shelves empty. The world has just entered a dollar collapse. Foreign nations start canceling dollar-based contracts. Oil is traded in yuan and rubles. The petrodollar gone. The ripple effect spreads instantly. U.S. imports vanish. Supply chains collapse. Inflation goes wild. The global financial order that's existed for 80 years ends in a single week. This is how empires fall, not with a bang, but with a silent loss of trust. The first victims, the middle and lower class. Inflation devours savings. Retirements disappear. A loaf of bread costs $15. Gas $40 a gallon. Rent doubles in months. The U.S. government prints more to help, but that only worsens the fire. Hyperinflation begins. Foreign companies flee the U.S. market. Tech giants collapse. Wall Street becomes a ghost town. Meanwhile, global chaos unfolds. Nations holding trillions in U.S. reserves, Japan, South Korea, India, face financial meltdown. Stock markets crash. Unemployment spikes. Entire industries die. But amid the chaos, new powers rise. The BRICS nations announce a gold-backed digital currency. Middle Eastern oil producers switch allegiance. China offers trade stability in exchange for political loyalty. The U.S. military, stretched thin, can no longer fund overseas bases. Allies drift away. NATO fractures. It's the ultimate power shift, from the U.S.-centric order to a multipolar world. Ordinary Americans, once shielded by privilege, now face the kind of financial hardship they thought only happened elsewhere. Food banks overflow. Civil unrest spreads. Conspiracy theories flood social media. People hoard gold, crypto, or barter goods. And while panic dominates the surface, a new economy begins underground, one built on trust, trade, and tangible value. Barter returns. Local currencies emerge. Communities form small-scale economic bubbles of survival. In this world, power no longer belongs to Wall Street or Washington, but to whoever can produce food, energy, or security. The old financial order crumbles, and from its ashes, something else takes root. But the cost? Generations of lost wealth and power. History repeats, not because people forget, but because they refuse to believe they're next. Every empire's currency, no matter how strong, eventually faces the same fate. When trust breaks, the money breaks with it. The US dollar may seem eternal today, just as Rome's denarius and Britain's pound once did. But the laws of economics don't bend for pride or politics. Every printed dollar is a promise, and promises eventually come due. When that day arrives, the fall won't be the end of the world, but the end of a world that believed it could print forever. So let me ask you, if you woke up tomorrow and the dollar had fallen, what would you trust? Gold? Bitcoin? Land? Community? Because when money dies, belief is all that's left.